This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we've snuck back into the turtle lair so we can use Donatello's portal to take us to Eternia, where we're going to look at the Turtles of Grayskull Michelangelo figure, the heroic captain of Cowabunga. Michelangelo here is based kind of on the battle armor He-Man without actually using the battle armor gimmick, which is kind of too bad. But if we look at the back of the box, we see Michelangelo going up against Hordak, and I think Hordak might be in the next wave of figures, but I don't remember. But he is also probably going to end up being a deluxe since, he's got the insectoid-like bat wings on the back there. And of course, if they're going to do Hordak, hopefully they do the different arm attachments. Mikey may have been a party dude with pizza on his mind, but after hearing about the heroics of He-Man, he has a new purpose: to be the most powerful turtle in the universe. He grabs a blonde wig and begins emulating Eternia's greatest warrior. And yes, Michelangelo does come off a He-Man wig. As part of this wave, of course, we have the Tila, the shell-kicking warrior goddess, Michelangelo, the heroic captain of Cowabunga, Casey Jones, the one-man weapons rack, and Skeletor, evil samurai of destruction. I gotta say, I am looking forward to opening up that Skeletor. But at the moment, let's go ahead and open up Mikey. Here we have his little informational card showing us all the stuff that comes off, including the hairpiece. Let's call it a toupee, shall we? We, of course, get the Turtles of Grayskull mini comic, The Spirit of Grayshell, where we have our first look at April O'Neil as her sorceress version. But we still get Tila and Man-at-Arms on the cover with the Turtles Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. This time, as we start out, this is where we get to see Castle Grayskull, which kind of freaks out Raphael a little bit because it's a giant skull that they're walking in, and that should freak any normal person out. But once they get inside, they are actually greeted by none other than Casey Jones, the one-man weapons rack. Surprised that he's there, he explains how when he saw the turtles running off to do battle against Krang, he grabbed the turtle van and took off. He speaks a little bit and mentions that April has come with him, and this is where we see April again as a sorceress. Thus far, from her appearance in the comic, I'm not that impressed with the design of April O'Neil Sorceress, but I will hold off my final decision once we get the actual figure. They got spewed out into the Dwell of Souls. When April came out, she had the powers of the sorceress. I kind of feel like this is a reference back to Revelations when Tila had to go into the pool and get her sorceress powers. The sorceress, of course, offers their help. Leonardo's like, well, thank you, but, he's our problem. And everybody else is like, hey, it's a problem for all of us now. Okay, so they don't really say that, but the sorceress tells them about how He-Man and the others were attacked, but He-Man tossed away the sword to keep it out of the hands of Skeletor, Shredder, and Krang, and that they need to find the sword. For whatever reason, they decided to let April go ahead and do the magic that does this rather than have the sorceress do it. In her attempt to activate the Dwell of Souls to look into the world to find the sword, a bunch of energy surrounds her. Raphael jumps up to try to save her, as Raphael is bound to do, and then gets electrocuted. From there, the spirit of the Dwell of Souls, I should say the Dwell of Souls, pops up an image of Splinter, but not Splinter. It is Splinter wearing the Revelation King Grayskull's harness and cape. Master Splinter does tell them where to find the sword, which is on top of a island, a rocky spire on an island is what it looks like. Even though later on it just kind of looks like a spire island. As the turtles jump out to try to find the sword, they run into a merman with his slithering tail. Merman starts to fight him, but as always, Merman is no match for anybody, apparently. and gets defeated real damn quick. Which is a shame because this really is a cool looking version of Merman. But they see the sword and they go running after it, only to be confronted by the mutated He-Man. Skeletor has He-Man go and attack. Although based on this imagery, it kind of looks like He-Man probably should have been a deluxe figure. Actually, they really should, like, seriously, look at this. Look how much bigger He-Man is than Leonardo. They should have made him a deluxe figure like they did Slackor. But as they reach the sword, Leonardo grabs it and yells turtle power, and this, for some reason, ends up pulling everybody on the hero side, as well as He-Man, into the void, where they are dropped down into the middle of Castle Grayskull. And now Splinter is no longer a phantom image, but apparently just standing there himself. Or maybe he is still a phantom image, it's kind of hard to tell. However, as luck would have it, whatever they just did caused He-Man to be unmutated, meaning that the Sword of Power is a way to end the mutations. Which, in all truth, if that is the way it goes, they would be better off using the Sword of Power to also demutate the villain side, because I'm pretty sure that they're going to be pissed at what happened to them. And we get the next up story is going to be He-Man in a half shell. On the back, we get the same cross cell that we got on the back of the cardboard. Michelangelo, the heroic captain of Cowabunga. Skeletor, the evil samurai lord of destruction. Tila, the shell-kicking warrior goddess, and Casey Jones, one-man weapons rack. So the most important thing to note with this is that they actually have little plastic chains on the nunchucks instead of just being a string of plastic, which is cool. Like, I am so glad they did that. And the nunchucks do look pretty, they're not overly defined like some of the other weapons. Like, I can't stand Leonardo's swords. I think they went a little overboard with them. But these nunchucks are perfectly fine. Except for, of course, I'm sure that they're going to fit really crappy in the shell shield. You could fit one set in there. Let's see if we can fit the other set. Not really. I am still going to say that this is one of the worst designed weapon holders I have seen in the Masters of the Universe or Ninja Turtle line. So that brings us to Michelangelo. So far, I am not a big fan of this design or this look. I do think that they should have just gone ahead and did a battle armor Michelangelo. And looking at this, or I mean, they did a battle armor Michelangelo, but I mean using the actual battle armor body for He-Man, so we could have gotten the little click in it. And unlike the rest of the turtles, Michelangelo does appear to have a new torso. We will take more look at that when we take the harness off, because the harness also looks like it is a separate piece. For the moment, however, if we turn to the back, he still has the tail on his bandana that moves around. And I'm not sure exactly. It looks to me like it is a new piece, and I think it might be a little bit longer. But his armor does have the little bits for the shell to plug into. We'll plug his shell in, we'll put his wig back on, and if you look at the bottom of the wig here, there is a little slot there in the back for the back of the ponytail holder, the back of the mask. So if we go with the articulation, head's on a ball joint, looks down, look up, around. The hair is shifting with every movement I make, which is kind of what I expected to happen because of the with the shell and the back of the mask here, the tail of it, that also causes a bunch of problems. Because when the hair is in place, that can only stick down, right? So, like every other turtle usually has this tail sideways so that it doesn't interfere with anything. But if we try to put the helmet on with the tail there, you can't do it. You have to have it down specifically. And in fact, I would even go as far as to say that it doesn't work well with the shell in place either. Because this is basically how it needs to be positioned for the helmet to sit properly. We get a more normal range of motion again, not quite perfect, and the hair doesn't move as much. So basically, it doesn't work out very well to have the shield and the shield shell on the back with the hair. On the arms, we get the spin, and obviously he just knocked off his helmet, his toupee. Aside from that, nothing else really interferes, though. Even his shoulder pauldrons kind of stay out of the way. We can also lift them up and down, and once again, the shoulder armor does not really get in the way. So that is kind of a good design there. We get the less than 90-degree bend in the elbow. We can spin it. We can take the wrist, spin it around. We have in and out articulation. The waist spins around. Even with the shield on, it doesn't really interfere with the waist spin, and neither does the belt, which, by the way, does appear to be the same belt that came with Leonardo. Kicking wise, we can move the leg up about that far, and we can move it back that far. And we can go ahead and kick out like that. You know, and I know all these guys are on the same body, but I kind of feel like for some reason, oh, there we go. We weren't getting quite the range of motion that we have gotten previously with these, but there, it was just stuck. We've got the knee joint, which does the less than 90, but does in fact have the little peg in there, so you can kind of move it angled sideways. But also, we of course have the boot cut, which spins all around. Feet on a hinge that goes up and down, and a peg that lets you spin it all around and do the hokey pokey. And turn yourself about. No, anyway. So that is our basic articulation on Michelangelo. Basically, the hairpiece here, the toupee, is basically something you will put on when you are ready to display it. It is not a good play feature for kids, though, I don't think. Right now, we kind of got it in place. As long as we don't move anything on his head, he can look forward. The head sculpt itself, first with the hair on. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of the way this smile is done, and I think part of it is that instead of painting the area behind the teeth like a darker color, so you're seeing inside its mouth, you just have it in the same color as the skin, and that's a bit off-putting in my opinion. Without the helmet, he basically looks like a regular Ninja Turtle character. But at least they do give the turtles all different head sculpts. And I'm trying to remember if the sculpts relate back to the original toy head sculpts too. For like the 80s Ninja Turtles. Because like Leonardo and Donatello both had one where like a half smile type of thing. Opposite sides. Then Michelangelo, I think, had the big smile like this where it goes all the way through. And then Raphael had the smile that went to both sides of his face, but the beak kind of kept it from being a full face smile. But as we were talking about earlier with the armor and the body, We will take our Mikey here apart. That's actually a pretty unique style for opening. I was actually expecting it to flip up like most, but this flips sideways. That's, like I said, that is a unique style. But yeah, he's the first turtle to have an alternate body sculpt or chest sculpt. And again, if they were going to go this far, I would have rather have seen them just go ahead and use the Battle Armor He-Man torso and just given us the Michelangelo M on it instead of He-Man's H. And now I'm trying to think. I I don't think the M or the He-Man H is sculpted into the battle armor. I think it's just a Tempodon. But yeah, I think if they were going to do this, they might as well have just gone all the way and given us actual battle armor. But then maybe that would have meant he had to be a deluxe figure. I'm not sure I'm that fond of this color scheme, the bronze color for it. But now his shoulder pauldrons also just kind of should slide off. These might be the best bits of shoulder armor for staying in place of any I've seen so far in this line. So if we go ahead and we get Michelangelo here down to his base figure, that's what he looks like. So yeah, he does not have the turtle look that the rest of them have. But at least this time there's a reason why you can't see the shell, right? So the toupee is an amusing accessory, but I think it is mostly pointless in my opinion. Out of all four of the turtles, I think this is the one that I like the least. Although, again, unlike Donatello, you can take the helmet off. If they had done that, that's the one factor with Michelangelo that I think really outdoes the Donatello, but that's about it. I wouldn't mind having a set of turtles for the He-Man world that just are the turtles with their shells and looking more like, the Ninja Turtles, but with He-Man bodies. And again, I wish they had added something so that you could actually put the shell on the turtle without it being in the way. Now for his nunchucks. Most of the time in the old series, we did see Mikey holding the chucks in two hands. The chains do make it really easy to flip them all around, which is cool. You can get some nunchuck poses out of this. So, unfortunately, we can't do the standard under the arm, one in the hand, one chuck under the arm. That doesn't work well. Let's see. Can we? We can get him holding him in the back of it. Let's see. Behind the head. over the head. Oh, that looks really awkward. So unfortunately, it does seem like we have very limited posing that we can do with Michelangelo and the nunchucks. Fun idea, by the way, for you. If you take like one of those old, when you buy bread and you get the twist tie, or sometimes you have them with garbage bags, if you strip the paper off of the twist tie and you kind of thread it through the chains on like these nunchucks, you can pose the nunchucks and have it interfere very little. Although it might be a little bit more noticeable since that is orange plastic and not like a gray plastic, which is too bad. And surprisingly, it does look like we can get his armor back on without taking his body apart. So that I guess would be a bonus. Yeah. I don't know if you guys heard that, but that was a pretty awful sounding cracking noise that just happened. Yeah, okay. I am not confident that I'm not confident that this figure is not going to break. Yeah, that sounds awful. So, I don't know if there's a problem with the manufacturer of this figure itself or just the one I got, but it definitely sounds like if I keep on pulling that torso apart, it sounds like the internal parts are going to break. And you might have noticed I was having quite a bit of problems trying to actually get it to go back into position afterwards. So that could just be from this figure specifically, or it could be a problem with the manufacturing. So be aware of that if you pick them up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Peace and love.